Hey guys and gals, we just got a price drop here from the seller on a listing I have, exclusive listing I have up in North Kansas City, basically in Gladstone off of 4651 Northeast Antioch Road in Kansas City. It's a 26 unit apartment complex. It was at 1.85 million or so. Now we're at 1.795 million. So a $50,000 price drop here. And I thought it'd be a great time to actually go into the details of why this makes for a great deal using the mathematical approach to it. Now, this is a value add deal. There's some work to be done here. I'm going to show you. I'm going to go through the Proforma on that real quick. But first up, just so you can understand what we're looking at here, it's 26 units across these two buildings here. This is a newer building here on the back side. This is the older building here. We're going to get into this here in a second, but you can see it likely needs new roof on both buildings. And that's going to cost probably $25,000 to $30,000 per roof, and that's all built into the pro forma, and you can actually get that as part of your acquisition here. This backs up to parks on the south side and on the east side. This main road here is Antioch, and so you can see it's got great visibility, great opportunity here for 26 units. There's I believe, let's see here, 15 or so in this building and 11 in this building. So the newer, better building has more units compared to the other one. But let's get right into why this makes mathematical sense. We'll pop over here to a couple different tabs so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so here's your standard pro forma. This is how an average investor would look at the deal. And you can see, really start to see how this would work out for you. So, of course, you got your number of units. Here, you've got purchase price now down to $1.75 million. You've got a retrofit cost, which you can get as part of the acquisition through a local loan, through a local lender here in Kansas City. That's a commercial lender that will get you on a 5-year term. We'll go over the details here too, but 5-year term, 25-year amortization, interest-only period, probably 18 months. Maybe you can squeeze that to 24 months to really get the numbers to work. So how does all this shake out? So $1.795 million comes out to $69,000 per unit. This retrofit cost is a cost across the entire project. Comes out to about $11,000 per unit. Some units are going to cost more. Some units are going to cost less than that. Plus, you got the roofs in there. Okay, so what does that actually do when we come into this particular project? How does that shake out with even with the rehab cost and everything? You're over almost $2.1 million. You're still going to be able to hit about a 9% cap rate. I think you can get better than that, but a 9% cap rate here. That's going to produce a cash flow of $57,000 per year. You're crushing your debt service coverage ratio of 1.43%. Cash on cash return in year one after stabilized is going to be 11%. Okay, so that's the numbers based on the current purchase price, but it is going to take a little bit of work to get there. Excuse me. Say on the left-hand side here. Let's talk about where this comes in. We got the loan to value 75%, interest rate 6.99. These are all real numbers. I think this might go to 70%. So you might have to bring a little bit more cash than that. But if you've got $550, you got $600,000 in cash from a 1031 exchange or real estate investment, this is the kind of returns you can get. But anyway, it's calculated here. 25-year amortization shows your annual payment. So. But really, the nuts and bolts here are, of course, what you're making off of the rent in your property. So 1 bedroom, 1 bath, we've got that. We've got 20 units at $985. We've got 5 studios in there. We're going to say $785, and one of them is a 2 bedroom, 1 bath. There's other opportunity to make some money too. Of course, pet fees, late fees. There's great looking for storage facilities in there. You can charge $25 a month for that additional. All those kind of things could be in addition to that, and we'll show you that here on the Stabilized Detail tab. But first up, you might be saying, okay, well, what are rents right now? Well, rents right now are in the $850 range, $950 range. We're going to focus on the 1 bedroom, 1 bath because that's where 20 units are at. Even, if you want to throw 21 in there, we're going to talk about how this 985 number is a real number because you take a look at the rent study. So I'm going to click over here into Rentometer, which I use to help give a good gauge of rents. And so you can see here just on a basic study, this was even pulled several months ago. You could run that now, and it's probably even a little bit higher because we do continue to see rents increase here in Kansas City. But for your one bedroom, one bath, the average is 948, median is 910. 880 is going to be the low, which is where the low side, which is actually where this building currently is on some of these. And the 75th percentile is over $1,000 on that. And so this report will show you the locations of all these. You can Google all these addresses, see what they look like on the inside. You can see here we've got 900, 995, 1025, 885. So it gives you all the data you can see here to see really what's realistic. Now remember, you're going to achieve these over a 24-month period as you continue to renovate, rehab, get this in the right place with an interest-only loan during that time frame. Okay, so you can see that the 980 is a believable number on rents, even though a lot of those are 880 or less. And there's all sorts of reasons for that. But right now, what we're really talking about is how does a business plan work based on the purchase price. Okay, so that shows you the rents there. Okay, so let's pop back over here. So all of that is going to produce $296,000 in rent per year. And part of you might be saying, well, yeah, but how am I going to be able to do that right now when they're only at 880? And my response is going to be, well, you're putting $300,000 into this project. You're going to spice up the exterior. You're going to get the new roofs on there. You're going to clean up the exterior. You're going to probably paint it. You're going to, as units turn, improve those even more than what they already are. So let's pop over. What do some of the units look like already? So here is photos we've got. Now this is a studio unit. You can see it's nice and fine for what a studio. There's 5 of these in there. Modern enough. You got tile showers in here. There's probably some cleanup, some recaulking, some new shower heads, some new tub fixtures, some of those kind of newer features to it. But again, your budget in there is $7,000 to $10,000 per unit, which would go a long way in a studio. Okay, so just kind of summing through the rest of the photos, talk about where that rehab funds come into. Now we also have, older kind of white over here. You've got your roofs, which I talked about. You've got window units in this building. The other building is central heating and cooling. Window units in this building and a boiler. You can convert that to mini splits for maybe $3,000 to $4,000 per unit if you wanted to. Keep them on window units. It's all up to you based on how far you want to go. Maybe you need a $500,000 purchase price, $500,000 renovation budget, and need to request that the seller drop the price a little bit. That's going to be up to you. But I'm showing you the options here as to why things are the way they are. So the other piece to it here is these have old steel windows, which do work and they work fine. But a lot of people say, well, I got to go in there and put vinyl windows in. Okay, that's fine. You can do that. It's part of your rehab budget. And you can just kind of see that you've got a mixture of modern finishes here with older white appliances. And as you continue to upgrade these units over time on lease up, you can make them better, function better, get those higher rents that we talked about. And oh, by the way, there are several units that I've been into that actually do have more of the modern finishes with either black appliances or stainless steel appliances. I don't have an exact account of that because it is truly a mix and a mix match of all of that going on. But I've been into 6 or 7 units and they all look fine on cleanup, similar to what you're seeing here as we thumb through that. So you can see that $300,000 should get you a good chunk of your way to hitting all of those rents plus more, and you can go out and get a larger rehab loan, maybe with a reduction in purchase price. Okay, so pop back over here to the rest of the Proforma. Let's take a look at where we get some other income here. So another piece to this, of course, is other income. So this particular line item here shows $95 on average per unit. Now that's going to include, you're going to bill back for water because that is not separately metered. You're also going to bill for people that have pets, and you're going to bill a trash fee to make people responsible for the trash that they use. You're going to bill all that back to each particular unit on average about $95 per unit, which is realistic and expected, especially in a rehabbed project like this. So that's a big assumption there. Another assumption is that you've got less vacancy. So you got vacancy here of 5%, which is very standard across Kansas City. It's been 5% for 5 or 6 or 7 years, especially in this location. If it's under 5%, you need to get a new management company. That's all I'm going to say. If you have vacancy of under 5%, you need to get a new management company, and you need to re-engage with the building that you own. A management company does not mean a passive investment. It means you manage the manager. Okay. All right, moving on here. So we've got taxes. These are all actuals of 18,000. You got a shelter insurance quote of 13,000, which is in the deal file folder. You got vacancies, common trash, etc. at 35,000. Again, that number can go down a lot if you put in mini splits and have the tenants pay for their own electricity. So all of those numbers do impact the bottom line. Of course, all that takes work. Okay, you got 8% for management, 1.5% for leasing, another 8% for maintenance. Now the maintenance, so that's all pretty standard here, 8% and 1.5% for leasing and management. Maintenance is at 8%. The reason why it's maybe lower than what you'd see is because, dude, you're putting in $300,000 into this project. You better have less maintenance costs as you've turned over those units to improve them to be nicer and better. And, so you're going to have less maintenance costs. Okay. So that's the assumption there. All right. So pulling all that down, we've got ourselves an NOI of 190,000 with a 9% cap rate here. Again, in about 24 months, you can hit that number. Cash on cash return, about 11%. And that's going to be your basic pro forma here. The further right column here is what things look like in year 5 based on. So I'll scroll down here. So that's year 5 numbers. You can see you get 136,000. Expenses are going up, but so is the NOI. You're getting up at the 10% cap rate, 15% cash on cash return in year 5. Who knows? Rates could also be instead of 6 points, or sorry, so 7% could be at 5.5. You don't know. But those are all the good things you can look forward to as time goes on. The reason why that year 5 number has gone up, it's based on an income growth of 3%, which we're seeing that or better here in Kansas City for rent growth, and expense growth rate, which is just your standard inflation rate of 3%, which, as you know, we see the national numbers. It's right now somewhere around 2.5%. Okay. So what about exit strategy? How do we exit? What kind of exit numbers we got? Well, we're going to assume we're going to sell this at about a 6.5% cap rate, which would put, and it's going to cost you 6%, including tax, insurance, attorney fees, realtor fees, etc., broker commission, all that stuff, to be 6%. And when you do that, you're going to get an IRR of 33%, 34%. Which is your yield on equity is 218%. I mean, there's all sorts of great numbers in here that you can crunch to see how you're going to get your money back, or even on a refi, what you're going to be able to cash out and refinance. Okay. So I just want to put this together here for this project. I think it's a great opportunity for somebody that's got a couple $1,000,000 that they can spend or get a loan on here in Gladstone, North Kansas City. The address again is 4651 Northeast Antioch Road. This has been an overview and evaluation by Alex Olson here for Legendary Apartment Brokers. Reach out if you have any questions. Email me, alex@legendaryapartmentbrokers.com. Thanks.